you can talk to 10 different people and you'll get 10 different answers or 10 different outlooks on what regenerative ag is. So that was one of the first things that we as a company had to do.
Coming up, we are talking to the COO of Farmland Services for Manulife Investment Management, who owns and oversees hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland. The Modern Acre is a podcast for builders in agriculture who think differently. If you would like to dig deeper with the Modern Acre, check out our membership community, the Modern Acre Co-op. The Modern Acre podcast is presented by American Ag Credit. American Ag Credit is a proud member of the Farm Credit System, which was created more than 100 years ago with the sole purpose of serving the financial needs of farmers and ranchers. From small farms to the largest agribusiness enterprises, American Ag Credit understands agriculture and how to structure customized financial solutions. Just like many of the guests we have on the pod, American Ag Credit recognizes that the evolution of agriculture is inevitable and exciting. Their goal is to be at the forefront of this evolution, partnering with producers to grow their future in ways they haven't imagined yet. To learn more about American Ag Credit and to receive exclusive access to reports from Terrain, a research and insight service of American Ag Credit, visit agloan.com/terrain or check the link in our show notes. Tim, you're looking a little glum over there. Is it time to address the elephant in the room?
Let's address the elephant in the room, Ty. Like usually during football season, Monday is Victory Monday, getting that Niners W over the weekend. Our team lost over the weekend, so a little out of sorts today, Ty.
Yeah, I can sense it, Tim. You're just a little all over the place. You're not tracking the way you normally do. I think last week the Niners won week 1. We didn't mention it on the podcast. I think we just wanted to keep, low key mojo. But I think if the football gods are telling us anything, it's that we need to talk about football. So this is our attempt at a reverse jinx.
Yeah, so let's double down on the football content. I think we tried to go the other direction with it, so I think we just need to talk Niners more. I think we solved it.
I think that's the solution. And Tim, I think a lot of the mistakes are fixable. I don't think this is an inherent issue to the skill or ceiling of this football team. I think a lot of it was mental, bad decisions by the coaches, by the players in critical moments. So I'm not going to sweat too much about this one. Let's get Christian McCaffrey healthy. Let's get back on a little win streak here. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, we're not overreacting. There's a few plays that didn't go our way. It's a game of inches, so I think we're still in a good spot, Ty.
Reasonable football analysis here on the Modern Acre podcast.
Oh yeah.
All right. This was a fascinating conversation with Kevin Wright. He leads up all of the farmland services at Manulife. So they own hundreds of thousands of acres, Tim. Like that's kind of mind-boggling to me about the quantity of acreage across multiple crops, multiple geographies, multiple continents. And he manages all that. And kind of digging into how do they think about things like regenerative agriculture and how do they think about the current farm economy was just really interesting to get his perspective on.
Yeah, it's interesting, like just looking at our farm, like we're farming our little sliver, and it's almost overwhelming to like manage all the different logistics. And so when you get to this kind of scale, it's kind of crazy how you tie it all together. So he gets into kind of the verticals that they have, permanent crops and tree nets in California, stone fruit, apples up in the Pacific Northwest, and kind of interesting to see how they segment the business and how they offer shared services to kind of manage this big of an operation.
All right. So with that, guys, you're going to love this conversation. Let's jump in with what's top of mind for Kevin.
With anyone who's involved in agriculture right now, a lot of things are top of mind or keeping you up at night, as we say, whether it be farm prices, which are important to everyone that's related to farming, labor situations across the U.S. and how they impact how we operate our business, as well as the economics of our business. Regenerative ag is one thing that we talk a lot about, especially at the investment level. And that's something that is a focus that we have as a company. But I love talking about regenerative ag practices, specifically around how our company is looking at that, because it may be something new in the investment realm, but as a farmer, someone that, and I've been in farming for my entire life. I'm a fourth generation farmer here in Northeast Arkansas. So regenerative agriculture, regenerative practices, those are things that we've been doing for generations. And we probably don't sell that enough or get credit or give ourselves enough credit in relation to those regenerative practices and our approach to regenerative agriculture. So that's something that we look at and talk about a lot in our business as well.
Yeah, it's a super good insight. I feel like a lot of farms are moving down the path of conservation and stewardship and using a lot of principles that like now are trendy and cool because of the proliferation of regenerative agriculture and all the awareness there. But there's things like crop rotations and using drip irrigation and conserving water. Like some of that stuff has just been stuff farmers have been doing. And now it's kind of in the forefront of the conversation around regenerative. And excited to kind of chat in more detail about how you view that at Manulife. But before we get into that, maybe give us a little background of what got you into agriculture.
Certainly, yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm a member of a fourth generation farm family. My brother, my father still operate our family farm here in Northeast Arkansas. Our farm consists of growing rice, corn, soybeans, as well as about a 260 head cow-calf operation as well. So this is something that I've been raised in, something I'm incredibly passionate about. Growing up on a farm, worked on the farm. My earliest recollection is helping my father and my grandfather put in rice fields when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, all the way through, the first time that I was able to drive a tractor at 13 or 14 years old. And I was born into agriculture, something that I absolutely love. After I went to college, I came back to the farm and farmed for about 10 years with my father. And when my brother became old enough to jump into the farm, I decided that I really wanted to expand my opportunities around agriculture. I love the farm. I love the direct operation of the farm. But I was just intrigued and drawn to the bigger business and the bigger platform of agriculture. And so after a few years of farming with my father, I made the transition to, at that point, I worked for a large John Deere, one of the largest John Deere dealerships in the U.S., Greenway Equipment, and started out in the precision ag field with them, managing the precision ag business. And that was at the time when auto tracks were just coming online. So I was one of the first ones from a support standpoint to help farmers understand the benefits of automated guidance on tractors, sprayers, harvesters, which was a fantastic time to come into that field, the technology field. And so I worked for that company and worked my way up through the ranks over the course of several years. From there, I went to work for a family office here in Northeast Arkansas that was heavily invested in agriculture, not only in the farmland ownership, but also the farmland management for others, as well as vertical business, cotton gins, grain facilities. We also had, at that time, we had 9 retail outlets where we sold seed, chemicals, fertilizer, things of that nature. So it was a great business. It was a great opportunity to step in and learn from that family. It's more regionally based around Arkansas. So after about 3 years, I stepped into I became president of that organization, ran those businesses for about 6 years. And then quite frankly, the opportunity that I had been looking for years opened up with Manulife at that point, to step into a global investment management company, not only that would give me exposure to farming across the North America as well as Australia, but also that from a value standpoint, there was a lot of good alignment for someone that had grown up on a farm and has a lot of passion for farming to step into a role with this company really made a lot of sense. And it's been a fantastic journey to this point.
That's so cool. I mean, I love that. I think we were talking before this podcast about how, a company like Manulife and a large investment manager of tens of thousands of acres of ag land, like it's a lot to manage, but getting down to the detail at the farm level, like you kind of went up the chain, right? Up the level. You started at the farm as a farmer, understanding how hard it is just to farm an acre, right? Like it requires so much management, and then kind of going up, seeing ag retail, agribusiness, I think is a super cool story. So Kevin, let's start with Manulife. Kind of give us a lay of the land. Like, who is Manulife? Tell us a little bit more about the company and where things are at right now.
Sure. So Manulife Investment Management is a global investment management company for natural capital. Specifically on the farming side, we have approximately 400,000 acres under management in North America, Australia, and Chile. We have about 200, almost a little over 260 employees that work for us across our platform. And we focus on not only the management of the asset for through traditional senses of leasing out that farmland, but we also have a direct operating arm of our business where we actually farm. Our employees farm the ground for on behalf of our clients. That really makes us unique from the standpoint of a large institutional investment manager, especially in the U.S. So this is a company that has, quite frankly, has been around for a long time. Manulife previously was John Hancock. And John Hancock has been involved in agriculture. Some people don't know this, had been involved in agriculture since the mid to late 1800s, financing farms through their lending arm. As the company continued to mature and see that agriculture was an asset class that was valuable not only to the business but just to the social fabric of the world, they started to invest. They started to invest their own dollars into agriculture, probably somewhere in the mid 70s. And as time progressed, they spun the lending arm into an institutional and an agricultural management arm, which at that time was called Hancock Agricultural Investment Group. And that's when we really put the foot on the gas of investing in farmland and managing those assets to an outcome for our general account as well as other clients.
Kevin, you talked a little bit about geographies being in North America, Chile, and Australia. Like what crops specifically, states within North America, like where are you operating and focusing your investments on primarily?
We have an incredibly diversified portfolio. When we look at our Western U.S. businesses, it's crops like apples, tree crops like apples, cherries, walnuts, almonds, pistachios, citrus. We also are investing in blueberry farms in Oregon as well as North Carolina. Of course, we have our row crops throughout the United States. I believe we're operating row crop farms, or we oversee row crop farms in 17 different states, and really runs the row crop gamut: your corns, soybeans, cottons, wheats, high-end hays for horses, vegetables such as onions, carrots, things of that nature, potatoes. So we produce a lot of different types of crops across our portfolio. One of the more unique that is probably lesser known is also cranberries. We grow a lot of cranberries. We're one of the larger cranberry growers, both in Wisconsin as well as in Canada. And that's a really unique crop, especially coming from the row crop world. To learn about cranberries was absolutely fascinating and a great opportunity when I stepped into this role.
Super cool. I mean, I think that's really important in kind of a position like yours in Manulife, right? As you want that diversification, right? There's so much commodity risk within agriculture. Absolutely. So really important to have a mix of crops and geographies and even different continents, right? So I mean, that's I think really important strategy. Kevin, like walk us through, like how do you acquire this land, right? Like I'm assuming every case is a little bit unique, but like walk us through maybe an example or two of, is this just a farmer who looks to sell, and in that scenario, how do you manage management? You mentioned there's in-house management team, so maybe walk us through some examples of the acquisition process.
Certainly, and we come at the acquisition process from a couple of different ways. Of course, we have relationships with brokers in the different regions throughout the U.S. and Canada, but we also our management team forges really deep, long-term relationships with some really strong tenants in the areas in which we operate. We're looking to help these partners, these production partners. That's how we look at our farmers. We're looking to help these production partners grow. So as they find an opportunity that works well, a piece of farmland that works well for their operation, and maybe they don't have the capital to invest, available to invest in that asset, or then they'll come to us and say, hey, this makes sense for me. We've had a great relationship. Is this something that you would be interested, we as a company be interested in purchasing, and then allowing us to farm? So there are opportunities that come to us through both of those channels as well.
Kevin, with the actual farm management being in-house at Manulife, how do you manage kind of like the centralization of different functions running a farm? Like, are you able to basically use all that demand to bid out to retailer to get better pricing, like that kind of thing? Or is each farm operating independently, or do you have some centralization for the farm management?
No, there's a level of centralization. Now, we do have platforms like our tree nut platform. It has its own management team that are well trained and well versed in the production of tree nuts. The same in apples, the same in cranberries, and then we have, of course, our row crop team that handles the oversight of client relationships, lease negotiations, capital projects, things of that nature in the 17 states that we operate. But in the background, we do have like centralized human resources, centralized accounting functions, some of the back office services. Yes, those are what we would call shared services between the platforms. And quite frankly, it works out very well for us as a business. It gives us great visibility into all of our business verticals, and it also, when you think about it from a leadership standpoint within the vertical, it gives our leaders, the vice presidents of our verticals, it gives them the opportunity to learn more about the other businesses within our organization, and how are things that are going right in an apple platform or a cranberry platform, how can we bring those over and replicate that in a tree nut platform, or vice versa? And also on things that aren't working well, we know not to make the same mistakes. We know that we need to tweak the services that we provide to each of our verticals. So there's a lot of advantages to being as you said, Tim, a large, diversified platform, and the value that brings to not only our clients, but the people within our own company, the managers within our own platforms.
Kevin, I want to get into the investor side of this conversation, right? So how are things going, I think, in the market right now? There's been obviously news about average farm income for 2023 going down. Commodity prices are kind of are coming down a bit, stabilizing post-COVID. Like, how are things going right now? How are conversations with investors? What's your view on the state of the market?
From an operations side, and that's where my focus is within the business, is from an operating standpoint. From an operating standpoint, our economics are much like those of your traditional producer, traditional farmer. Things, of course, are getting tight on the tree nut side. You know, we seem to be coming out of that pricing trough that we've been in for the past few years, which is a bit of a relief to the industry, which has been fantastic. We've worked our way through some of the COVID and post-COVID inventory buildups that we had. We're working our way through that, so that's fantastic. Whenever we see markets tighten, just like any other producer, it forces us to become more efficient in the ways that we operate our businesses. How are we utilizing resources? To your earlier point, how can we leverage our scale to buy things cheaper, to buy products cheaper, whether it be inputs, equipment, just services? How can we leverage our business to make our economics better for the benefit of our clients? The pain points that your traditional producer, we have those. We have those just like every producer. And those pain points, just like we talk to our team, just like any farmer, as you come through these times of tightening margins, it makes you a better operator. It makes you a better businessman. And if you do the right things and operate your business the right way, you can come out ready to find those opportunities that are available to you on the other side of these downturns in the farming economies.
Kevin, do you get involved in the packing and processing of these crops? You're in a lot of high value specialty crops like the apples, cherries up in the Pacific Northwest, the tree nuts. Like, do you get any exposure to kind of that downstream distribution?
We do. We are investing in some of those opportunities. It's not something that I'm directly involved in. Our focus is really the growing, the manufacturing of the crop, and then we work in tandem with our management teams in our vertical businesses to help them understand product flow, quality assurance, things of that nature. So it's a working relationship, but I'm not directly involved in those assets. And that's the investment into that vertical play is really something we've started. This as a company we started a few years ago, and we have it in a couple of our different platforms. But it's something that we as a company feel is important for us to really capture the opportunities within a vertical relationship, understanding the economics at the farm gate as your products flow through the supply chain, and capitalizing on those opportunities, those margin opportunities. That's how you're going to get. That's how we can really ride these ups and down tides that we have within agriculture.
All right, I want to move to a topic that I think is really exciting, regenerative agriculture. In your position leading farming operations, like how are you guys thinking about regenerative agriculture? How, especially across a number of geographies and crops, given just the context requirements of regen, right? What works in one geography and crop may not work in another geography and crop. Like how are you thinking about regen ag?
Well, one of the first things we had to do is we had to define what does regenerative agriculture mean to us. When you can talk to 10 different people and you'll get 10 different answers or 10 different outlooks on what regenerative ag is. So that was one of the first things that we as a company had to do. And really our definition is it's really a management framework around which the goals of soil health and productivity really guide our management decisions. And the benefits and the opportunities around those decisions, optimizing farm production on the farm, increasing biodiversity in and around the farm, and another opportunity is the sequestration of carbon, which is a big focus of ours over the past several years as well. So again, that we had to define what it meant to us first, and then we had to take it down. Then we had to push that down into the operating business. And it's really regenerative ag means and takes on a different form. It's much different in tree nuts and apples than the regenerative practices that we have on a row crop farm in the Mississippi Delta. So again, we have a definition. We understand what we want to accomplish. And then the tactical side of a regenerative program is much different and very tailored to the regions in which you operate and the crop mixes in which you have within the regions that we operate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's very similar on our farm where we grow a variety of different crops, and certain principles make sense for some crops and not for others. So having a different definition for your different verticals that you focus on makes total sense.
Yeah.
Kevin, want to talk a little bit about a topic that always comes up when you're talking farmland is water availability and challenges there. Like obviously we farm in California. Sigma is going to be making an impact in California here in the coming years. Maybe just talk to us about your thoughts on water and how you look at water availability when you're underwriting properties.
Yeah, water, of course, is top of mind for us as an organization. We're invested in California. We're feeling some of the same stresses and pain points that you do on your family farm. And our approach is really how are we best and most efficiently utilizing the resources that we have. In California, of course, we're trying to find opportunities to we've transitioned to drip irrigation in our tree nut farms. Trying to maximize the water that we can and get really direct placement at that root zone where we need it in the most efficient way possible. When you look at row crops from a water utilization standpoint, we've put a lot of work and a lot of capital into reservoirs and tailwater recovery systems to try to capture runoff water or rain or pump water out of big ditches and try to negate using as much groundwater as possible. Now we do use groundwater. It's a part of our irrigation tactics. It is, but we actively look to utilize water in the most efficient way possible. Going back to California, we're doing a lot of work as it relates to Sigma and trying to right size our farms with the water availability that we have in the different water regions. We're doing a lot of work in capturing water and trying to put that water back into the ground to try to recoup some of that some of the runoff or the recharge that we have around the areas. So it's front of mind for all of us. it's directly in California, as you well know. It's Sigma is directly impacting valuations on farm, the value of farmland, and what we can and can't grow in some of these areas. So it's real, and but it's not just real. It's real from the standpoint that we are stewards. We are stewards of the land and stewards of the resources. That's how we look at ourselves as a management team, as a management entity. And we're going to try, even in areas where we have ample water, we're still trying to find those ways and those opportunities to really conserve that and manage that resource the most effective way that we can, and set this up as, and this, I say this as a generational farmer, just like you, Tim and Tyler. We want to pass this resource. We want to pass this resource to the next generation. The only way we do that is to take care of it now.
Totally. I mean, I think that's one thing where it's an alignment of incentives when we talk about investing in farmland, right? Like, this is a great example of the land will be worth more if it's farmed well, right? Like, so right. I think it's a win-win scenario in that case. On that note, talk to us about Leading Harvest. I think you guys have made a effort to get certified with Leading Harvest. Talk to us about kind of the decision to focus there and how that's working for you guys.
Yeah, Leading Harvest, again, it's something that we've been involved in since it was created. The Leading Harvest standard. 100% of our farmland holdings in both the U.S. and Australia are operated under the Leading Harvest standard. We're starting to implement those audits on our Canadian platform. That's ongoing right now. So we're helping not only push that into the Canadian markets, but we're trying to help understand and set those same standards. And that our ultimate goal is to have all of our Canadian acres enrolled into the Leading Harvest standard as well, hopefully here in the next few years. So a big part of the big thing that we really appreciate about the Leading Harvest is it's a standard that we as farmers, I talked about it a little bit earlier, it's something that we live by. Regenerative practices, although it's really come front and center, especially in the investment world here recently. We've been doing regenerative ag practices, whether it be minimum till, crop rotations, utilizing animals on post-harvest grazing, different types of fertility management. All of that are things that we've been doing for years and years, if not generations. And when I look at our farms here at Manulife, 100% of our farmland has at least one regenerative practice that is incorporated into our farms. I'm going to say probably, I don't have the percentages right in front of me or exactly in front of me. When I look at the percentage of our farmland that has at least three farm regenerative practices taking place on that farm, it's in the high 70s to low 80%. So it's a big part. Regenerative practices and operating those farms under that Leading Harvest standard is something that we take very seriously, and we incorporate we talk about it every day at the management level, and we live it in the way that we manage our farms.
Kevin, we want to end with a fun one that we ask all of our guests. What's your ag hot take?
I guess one of the big hot takes right now is there's a lot of interest in vertical farming, hydroponics, indoor growing areas, which is fantastic, and I love it. I'm behind it 100%. I think it plays an important part in agriculture and especially in the investment realm. Being able to get high quality food into specific areas of the country, I think it fits that. It checks that box. It allows us to do that. It allows us to meet those types of farming arrangements. Allows us to meet production windows or delivery windows for grocery stores. So it's a fantastic opportunity to do that. But what we people within the industry don't want folks to lose the bigger picture that broad outdoor agriculture production. When you look at the number, that we have to have that. We have to continue to be more efficient, grow more yield on less acres. we have a lot of folks in this world to feed. We're going to have a lot of folks in this world to feed over the next 30, 40, 50 years. So we have to continue to find ways to become more efficient, make sure that our ground is, our properties, our farmland properties are as fertile and productive as we can make them. I always take a step back and look at the big picture. And to me, I've always found that agriculture, the production of food, to me is one of the most noble causes, the most noble industries that you can be in. Feeding people, feeding children. And in order for us to do that, we have to continually step up, be great stewards of the land, be great stewards of agriculture in general. We're going to do that through multiple channels. Like I said, broad outdoor agriculture, as well as some of these opportunities that we have in indoor agriculture. It's an exciting time for the businesses that we're in.
Kevin, this has been a ton of fun getting to know you and everything that Manulife is working on, how you're focused on managing these farms, making sure that they are stewarded. As we finish up, how can listeners get in touch and connect with you and Manulife? My
email address is kwright@manulife.com. I also can be easily found on LinkedIn. I really enjoy LinkedIn, not only being able to talk about our company, but also looking at all of the other leaders within the agriculture industry. So I'm easily accessible there as well. So, Tim, what do you think of the conversation with Kevin?
Always love talking about kind of like farmland as an asset class. We've had a number of people on the podcast talking about it, but I really like the model of like the farmland management company actually doing the farming themselves, where a lot of these funds that are available are like, yes, it's an option for farmers, but I think to really execute this business model, like being in on the ground level and farm level, is super critical to the success of that piece of farmland.
I also thought it was fascinating how they think about regenerative agriculture. Was really insightful part of the conversation, Tim, like a fund that big, that many acreage, how they think about it as well was really fascinating. So thanks, Kevin, for joining the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We will be back with another great episode. And now, time for some disclosures. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers, are subject to change as market and other conditions warrant, and do not constitute investment advice or a recommendation regarding any specific product or security. There is no guarantee that the investment strategy discussed will be successful or achieve any particular level of results. Any economic or market performance information is historical and is not indicative of future results, and no forecasts are guaranteed. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Financial markets are volatile and can fluctuate significantly in response to company, industry, political, regulatory, market, or economic developments. The information provided does not take into account the suitability, investment objectives, financial situation, or particular needs of any specific person. All overviews and commentary are intended to be general in nature and for current interest. While helpful, these overviews are no substitute for professional tax, investment, or legal advice. Clients and prospects should seek professional advice for their particular situation. Neither Manulife Investment Management nor any of its affiliates or representatives, collectively Manulife Investment Management, is providing tax, investment, or legal advice.